Over the last 6 months, a nighttime phenomenon has been witnessed across many cities. Around the world, an abandoned video camera was discovered. The footage was left in the camera, and as you will see, there really is an unidentified creature haunting our cities at night. Sonic Unleashed. When the sun
It's
goes
2025. Why are they showing this?
Hey, the full moon's out.
But it's the middle of the day.
I'm changing. The fuck?
Huh. That's kind of cool, I guess.
I can't fucking take it anymore.
It was the middle of 2006, aka the peak of Sega's... Sonic wasn't really at his best, far from it. We went from highly polished platformers, when they wanted to be, to slowly seeing the series deteriorate into a shell of its former self. Things honestly seemed rough for the series. We went from one of the greats to being laughed at if you even slightly liked Sonic.
Hey, fuck you!
So Sonic Team needed a redemption. They needed something big and special, a comeback to Sonic. So with a new engine exclusive to the franchise, a new gameplay style, and a new coat of paint for all the worlds and characters, all of that combined into one of the greatest, most ambitious, drop-dead, gorgeous franchise-defining games of all time. Sonic Unleashed. Too bad it came out at the peak of the Let's Make Fun of Sonic era, because damn, this game was panned, thrashed, and shat on at launch. But we all know the story of the game by now. It has one of, if not the best redemptions of any video game. Most people love a lot of the aspects that were pushed aside at launch, but there's still the aspects that are pushed aside. Aspects that never get talked about, no matter the review, retrospective, or any discussion of the game. Most people who praise this game, calling it the best Sonic game of all time, barely even scratch the surface. There is so much charm, care, and personality in every part of the game. Sonic Unleashed stands out as one of the most exceptional Sonic games in history. It's a celebration of the world and everything positive around it, and most importantly, it's a celebration of life as a whole. This is Sonic Unleashed, Sonic's best game so far. Sonic Unleashed starts off as any Sonic game would. Pretty basic Sonic stuff. From a fat guy turning bunnies to robots to this. It's been said from time and time again to the point where it should be oversaturated, but no. The Unleashed opening cutscene is fantastic. And debatably, it's the best opening of any Sonic game. Most of the 3D Sonic games from Heroes up to Unleashed had 3D openings, each with their own style and flair. Heroes had bouncy, colorful, and cartoony CGI cutscenes throughout the whole game. They're a little dated nowadays for sure, but they worked really well and were cool for its time. When Shadow the Hedgehog came out, the CGI cutscenes were almost next level for the series, and in a way, it kinda shaped how the series looks to this day. For better or for worse. 06, for how rushed of a game it was, had CGI that was anything but rushed. Say what you will about the game, but the CGI was so fluid and expressive. But this? Not only does it beat the last few games out of the park with CG cinematics, not only does it beat the cinematics we got in the recent games, trailers, but it also debatably beats how the actual Sonic movies look. This was a taste of a full-on Sonic movie here. It's the never-ending situation here, Sonic vs. Eggman. Compared to a lot of other Sonic games, it's a very cliche way to start off the game. But the way they do it here is fantastic. Aside from a few lines pointed by Eggman, there's not a single sentence said until halfway through the opening. But not a single word has to be said here. Everything is shown off with wonderful action and exaggerated animation. Looking back at this though, it's kinda sad that this was the last last game to have an egg fleet that isn't just the death egg with some added flair. Almost every Sonic game after this just makes bootleg copies with added nostalgia with the death egg. But for what it's worth, it's such an intense and stunning way to start the player off. But enough about the visuals, let's talk about the plot. The game kicks off with what seems to be an ending to an already existing Sonic adventure. The final battle between Sonic and Eggman, and right when all seems lost for the Eggman Empire, Sonic gets trapped and used with the Chaos Emeralds to power a machine. And Eggman uses that machine to blow up the Earth, dividing the planet into 7 different chunks, and in the process killing 0 people. They all just kind of thought it was an earthquake.
Well, what was that? Whatever, I'm gonna go back to bed.
While this is all happening, Sonic starts transforming into a more rabid beast, the Werehog, thanks to the... Actually, I don't know why he does. Was it because of the negative energy of the Chaos Emeralds? Well, it couldn't be. They got knocked out of him with that zappy machine Eggman used. And why did his shoes turn into werewolves too? That should probably be the least of my concern, to be honest. So apparently under the Earth's crust lies an ancient godlike entity called Dark Gaia, with powers that Eggman wants to harness so he can finally build Eggman Land and rule the world. He destroyed the world with the intent to kill billions so he can build a theme park. Kinda makes me wonder though, what would have happened if Eggman actually blew up the Earth like he threatened to do in Sonic Adventure 2? It'd be kinda cool to see a what if story for that actually. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, that. Eggman launches Sonic back to Earth with the hopes to kill him in the process. It's okay though, we landed on a small fairy dog.
If we act now, we may be able to restore the planet by returning power to the Chaos Emeralds.
As for the story leading into this, it's a lot more tame for its writing, even if the plot is, you know, literally world-ending. I think this has to do with the amount of complaints they got with the stories of Shadow and 06. In fact, most of the stories featured in 3D Sonic games were bashed for how serious they were. And honestly, Unleashed had those very same complaints. I never understood why though. After falling back into Earth, Sonic wakes up with a strange creature next to him that's lost his memory. After looking around to see if anyone in town knows him, Sonic names the little guy Chip based off his love for ice cream. But when the night falls, it's revealed that it's not just Sonic that gets affected by the power of Dark Gaia, but all the citizens in town. Unlike Sonic though, the people around all the hubs act like the complete opposite from themselves. For example, the cheerful, humble ice cream man that you meet at the start of the game becomes a depressed, sad shell of his former self. Eventually, both Sonic and Chip meet up with Tails, who helps us with fixing the planet by flying us to Spagonia to meet up with Professor Pickle.
What? Professor Pickle's been kidnapped?
Oh, fuck. After saving the Pickle, we find out that in order to restore the planet, they need to visit all 7 Gaia temples and recharge the Chaos Emeralds. Once that emerald recharges itself, that specific chunk of the Earth falls back to normal. I kinda like this detail. It implies that the emeralds have more lore than what we thought of at the time of release. They've never really been anything more than just a plot point for the finale of the game, besides adventure I guess, but even still that was more so a backstory for the Master Emerald. So to give the Chaos Emeralds a much greater focus here, actually having them throughout the entire game and giving them ancient old history with the Earth is a genuine cool touch, until they just forgot about that with Frontiers. After that though, besides a couple of in-between cutscenes and whatnot, the story takes a major backseat. You explore a new area, restore a piece of the planet, and check in with the professor. It's a very light story compared to the things we've had before, but the writing, characters, and set pieces really make up for it. They make the cast a lot smaller in terms of how many returning Sonic characters are here. All we have here are Sonic, Eggman, Tails, and Amy. And even with Tails and Amy being in the game, they're not here for much of the overall plot. They are important to the story, and I don't think the plot would go on naturally without them, but it's not as big as how they were in Sonic Heroes or Sonic 06. I remember hearing somewhere that Knuckles and Shadow were planned to be in the game with the intent for them plus Amy and Tails to have bigger roles. The game was worked on as a Sonic Adventure 3 after all, but due to how many differences the game had compared to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, a lot of those elements were scrapped in favor for new things. I personally think this was for the better. It's very refreshing having a more grounded Sonic story compared to what we had in the adventure games, and it's honestly my favorite Sonic story for that reason. I think this game does the whole globe traveling thing so well. You visit a bunch of different countries and cultures as well as getting to talk to loads of unique characters with distinct personalities. You start in the calm and peaceful Apatos, based on areas like Greece. Then you move on to Missouri, based off of Africa, most notably the Republic of Mali. Just look at the architecture, it's practically one-to-one. Spagonia, which is based off of Europe as a whole. We got Big Ben, architecture from the likes of Spain and Italy. Just look at the food you can buy here. Haloska, which is pretty much a mix of Alaska and Greenland. Chunnan, I wonder what it could be. Empire City, New York, also the most filler part of the game. It was so filler, in fact, that it just got cut from the Wii version. Shamar, based in the Middle East like Iran and Iraq, and finally Adabat, being Southeast Asia. It's got the same Sonic in the real world style as 06, but unlike having a lot of realism and placing a bunch of cartoons in front of it, they take that cartoon style and tinker the world to its fitting. And that's all thanks to all the humans having precise visual elements instead of just being basic Unity assets. They all look straight out of a Pixar movie here. You can talk to almost every NPC in each area to learn about themselves, their cultures, and to help them out with side quests. You can also save those corrupted NPCs at night provided by a camera you get later in the game. I think the best part of talking to all the NPCs and helping them out is that you encourage them to travel around the world with you, and it ultimately affects their lives in so many positive ways. I think it makes so much sense for Sonic's character as well. He's a character that would stop whatever's important just to save someone or to help someone better their lives. The planet is split into 7 different pieces, but Sonic would rather help a mother find their child or help a kid meet his long lost dad than fight the same dude that he fights every day of the week. Nobody really talks about this part of the game, but it honestly gives Unleashed so much life to it. You get to see the world around Sonic, and it feels like genuine people live in these areas, and the stuff you do affect everyone in positive ways. I mean, mostly, you kind of brainwash a guy into an arranged marriage, but other than that, positive. Whenever you restore a chunk of the earth or play through a stage, the townsfolk even comment on it. You can also buy these souvenirs to give the why is Professor Pickle so hard to say? To give to Professor Pickle for certain rewards and tips. As you can probably tell by this point, all these features and quirks make for a really immersive experience. I actually feel like I'm traveling the world. I'm not just playing a bunch of levels and then beating the game. I'm experiencing everything amazing about the planet. And in doing so, I'm impacting the people who live in it. The world building is fantastic, and it's sadly something that hasn't been put in Sonic games since. I personally think Frontiers could have used a lot of these features to flesh out the open zones. They only really went as far as to talking to a character you save in that specific island. And I guess having specific fish to catch in each area. Forces was supposed to have hub worlds, so I could only imagine they wanted to bring these back in some way, but you can't really do that with $20 in a dream, so whatever. I guess on that note though, it's time we fully bring up the Wii and PS2 versions of Sonic Unleashed. The story itself is practically the same, even the cutscenes are just pre-rendered versions of the HD ones, but the structure is very simplified in comparison. Instead of little hub worlds with shops, side missions, and characters walking around, we instead have the world's first Sonic visual novel, with the usual static backgrounds and static characters, and it's fine, I guess, it works, but honestly, I never understood how some people could prefer this over the actual hub worlds. The whole game is about going around the planet, so to strip the actual planet away feels a little, well, it feels like Dimps didn't really understand the world adventure of Sonic World Adventure. Although, to make up for the lack of hub worlds, we actually get to explore the Gaia temples. They aren't nearly as interesting or nice looking than the entrance stages in the normal game, but it's nice. They used to creep the fuck out of me when I was a kid though. Going back to the narrative, I think the climax of the story feels so much better when you experience all of these things. When reaching the last temple of Gaia, Chip gets sucked into a mural, and with the help of visual effects and lighting, he gets his memories back as he's revealed to be Light Gaia, the complete opposite of Dark Gaia. He's the physical representation of day, and for thousands and thousands of years, he's been restoring the planet once Dark Gaia strikes to destroy it. The only reason why this time is different is because of Eggman's sudden awakening. It wasn't really time for this stuff to happen yet. That's why Dark Gaia isn't at his strongest and why Chip lost his memory. But thanks to that, and with the help of Sonic, he's finally been able to see the planet he's been fighting for. He's been able to experience how amazing life can be, how beautiful the world is. I'll just let this play out.
It's been so fun getting to see the world. I've lived here since the planet began, but I didn't know a thing about it. That it's so pretty, or that food tastes so good, or that people are so nice. I'm so glad I got the chance to discover all that with you, and I'm so glad that you helped me find my memory. Sonic, I will never, ever forget you.
Chip nowadays gets a lot of hatred in the community. He's annoying, he ruins the pacing of the cutscenes, blah blah blah. But I honestly think that's far from the truth. We've had many sidekicks exclusive to certain Sonic games, but I don't think we've ever had one as impactful as Chip. The bond that Sonic and Chip grow as friends is really heartwarming, especially with the knowledge that he's never been able to experience the world before. In a way, he's kinda like Sonic's opposite. Sonic's is free as the wind, but Chip's sole purpose is to be stuck guarding the planet until it's wrecked again by Dark Gaia. But when he gets the chance to meet Sonic, he gets the chance to actually be free, the chance to experience life, a chance to experience the wonders of the planet. And that also leads back into Sonic's characteristics here. As I said previously, Sonic, since the series began, is a character to always help someone when they need it the most. And even without looking at the side content here, Unleashed is definitely one of the best examples of this. As soon as the game starts, Sonic falls to Earth in this weird new transformation minutes after the Earth is split into pieces. And the first thing he does is check to see if someone else is okay, shrugs off whatever happened to him, and decides to help them out. That's why the very same cutscene I showed off earlier has the best way to describe Sonic.
I bet it's thanks to you. Even at night when I'm like this, I'm still myself, not like all the other people we've seen. You must have been protecting me this whole time. I haven't done anything, Sonic. You're the reason you haven't changed at all. You're too strong to lose yourself. I'm the reason? Yeah, you never doubt yourself, no matter what. You never give in to the night or the darkness inside your heart. I think it's because I knew that about you.
I guess technically there's one moment in the game where Sonic can be seen not acting like himself. It's when Amy doesn't even recognize Sonic, but unlike the other people we come across in the game who have been overpowered by the negative energy of Dark Gaia, Sonic doesn't really go through that. He continues on and does what he does best, which I actually think shows Sonic's character even better. He's physically had it the worst out of anyone around him. Dark Gaia literally changed how he looks at night. But it doesn't really matter how he looks, because as Chip said, he's still Sonic. It's not really the speed that makes Sonic himself. It's his heart. For me personally, Unleashed has the best version of Sonic's character, even if a lot of it has to be pushed aside for side content. When you actually take your time to do even a little bit of this stuff, you can see what I mean. I guess on the topic of writing, before we get to the final bits of the story, we can talk about the actual tone of the game. A lot of Sonic stories, even if I think they're great, can lean too much into the dramatic side of things, while other Sonic stories can focus too much on comedy, more often for the worst. However, in Unleashed, I think there's a very nice mix of both. It has its jokes, both in visuals and dialogue, but it knows when to take itself seriously, and when it does, it goes hard.
Hey!
Hello there, what the fuck are you doing in my home?
What about the fucking gameplay?
Well, but, actually, you're kinda right.
Why the fuck am I a furry? What? Where am I? Hey, jackass, where am I?
Sonic Rush was a game that innovated the 2D Sonic formula by giving Sonic a new move called the Boost. It was an ability that gave Sonic a burst of speed by the press of a button as long as your boost gauge was full. Just like how Rush innovated the 2D Sonic gameplay, Unleashed aimed to innovate Sonic's 3D game with that same principle. So instead of the more platform-focused gameplay of Sonic Adventure, we have... While Sonic Rush is still in a way traditional Sonic platforming with giving Sonic stuff like the spin dash and roll, Unleashed gives Sonic many new moves for his moveset. For example, to manage Sonic's turns, we have the Quick Step. Essentially, whenever you use this ability, Sonic switches to a different lane. It works extremely well for the lane design that a lot of the stages have, because many stages have big areas that are segmented into layers. Like for example, at the end of Windmill Isle Act 1, you can tell there's 3 lanes by the placement of traps and enemies. The rail system is practically the same here as well. Instead of balancing yourself while gaining momentum, you're swapping between rails to avoid traps, as well as trying to reach shortcuts as fast as possible. Another way to manage how Sonic controls is with the Sonic Drift. It's a move that gives Sonic a sharper turning radius. It's a lot harder to turn Sonic by himself in this game, so it's definitely really useful when you go up against sharp turns. A lot of people nowadays debate on which drift system is better, the one from Unleashed or the one from Generations, but personally I think they're both different enough to be great on their own merits. In Unleashed, you have to think more when you start drifting, and if you're skilled enough, you can keep boosting while doing it. It's a lot more physics-based, but in Generations, it has a tighter control, so you'll be able to use it a lot easier. But at the expense of that, you won't really have to use much skill with it. Either way, both are still better than whatever the fuck this was, so whatever. I know this doesn't really help with the controls at all, but you can also crawl around. It doesn't really do anything to benefit you though. In fact, it makes you feel like a dumbass when you fuck up and have to use it. Not as much of a dumbass as the Wii version makes you feel though. The Wii version is almost identical with its moveset, however the biggest difference has to be with the boost itself. Instead of boosting around the entire stage, the gauge is full of bars that give you a sudden burst of speed whenever you press the corresponding button, meaning you have to kinda choose wisely when to use it. There's also more of an incentive to collect rings because collecting them grants you a bigger boost gauge and a faster speed for Sonic. Since Dimps, the same developers as Sonic Rush, worked on this version of Unleashed, there's a few elements from that game incorporated here that aren't in the HD version. Like for example, action chains return. You fill up your boost bar more with each chain reaction you get. It's sort of like a combo meter, but it doesn't really work as well as it did in Sonic Rush. Surprisingly, even the spin dash is in this version, though in very specific moments. There's two ways to perform it. At the start of the stage, he spin dashes if you hit the boost button right before he runs off, or he can do it when boosting right before hitting a dash panel. Fun fact, this detail actually returned in Generations, but I see no one ever bring up that comparison. As for the levels themselves, in the HD version, they're probably some of the hardest modern Sonic levels in the series, and by proxy, the longest levels of the series as well. As opposed to the 2 to 3 minutes that something like Generations offers, Unleashed has double or even triple that length. So in order to get the best time in ranking, you need to focus on getting the optimal paths instead of just going fast and getting an S rank handed to you. And if you want to get an S rank, make sure you know your button layouts because Unleashed is the first Sonic game to my knowledge that has quick time events. Whenever you launch yourself off of specific ramps, you get a random set of buttons on your screen. If you hit them all in time, you can reach different areas of the levels. I think for how fast paced these are really nice additions to keep you on your toes throughout the stages. A lot of Sonic games nowadays use these for cinematic moments in the levels, and it's cool seeing these events play out, don't get me wrong, but it definitely hurts replayability big time, so I think I like this approach a little more. To spice up the levels, we have 2D segments akin to the classic Sonic games that show up here, and every now and then you swap between 3D and 2D. They always feel like a nice love letter to Sonic Rush, and the best part about them is that they don't take up much of the level time. You'll be in these for like 30 seconds at most. Out of any boost game with 2D, these definitely feel like the most organic to the level design, and they really do help the stages with feeling more natural. A big problem I've had with recent games in the series has to be with the structure and design. None of these stages feel like actual worlds to me. In Frontiers, most of the cyberspace stages look like Sonic versions of Fall Guys maps. Shadow Generations did this a lot better, but at the end of the day, these are just older Sonic stages in HD. But in Unleashed, they go all out with this. The start of the stage never looks like the end of one. Like for example, in Apotos Act 1, the first stage of the game, you start on a grassy field you crash landed on. But once you complete the level, you find yourself at the entrance of a village that you walk around in right after. Or like in Adabat, when it starts you off in an area similar to the hub world, but once you complete it, you're stranded in a forest. Generations does do this as well. Like in Green Hill, you start off in a linear field just like the original Sonic 1, but by the end of it, you finish off in a flower garden filled with waterfalls and bright colors. And while it is really good here, it's definitely not as great as how Unleashed handles it. You actually feel like Sonic's running around these countries searching for Gaia temples. The same idea is shared with the Wii version, but it's a lot smaller in scale, and instead of making worse looking versions of the day stages in the HD release, they chose to have Sonic travel completely different areas of the countries, like exploring the caves of Coolidge, the outskirts of Apotos, the downtown streets of Rooftop Run. Sometimes it actually feels like you're exploring the HD night stages but as daytime Sonic on the Wii. It's a cool touch. It makes the Wii version feel like an actual encore mode of some sort. Going back to the HD version, there's a variety of side content to choose from here. All the continents have a few additional side stages that you can find throughout the entrance stages. A lot of them are 2D stages or a gimmicky stage that depends on a specific move that Sonic has, but that doesn't mean they aren't quality levels. We have stuff like chow collecting, a couple reaction tests, stages based around rail grinding. Looks kinda familiar. There's also DLC stages for every continent as well. These are, without a doubt, probably the hardest but smartest levels in the whole series. Some of these are just hard mode versions of previous stages, but the unique and original ones? Probably some of the best that the boost can offer. Wait a minute. The last thing I'll briefly mention is the side quest. They're just segments from other boost levels with short objectives. Collect pieces of medicine, find a missing child, collect as many rings as possible. There's not much else to say here, but I do like the addition of them. Overall, for the first 3D Sonic game to use the boost formula, they knocked it out of the park. It's such a good way to show off Sonic's speed, and mastering the mechanics and level design is really fun. The daytime stages are fantastic, and they're no doubt the best and most popular part of the game. It's the main 3D Sonic style to this day for a reason, but even if they are the best part of the game, that doesn't make the other half bad. The night stages, the most controversial part of Sonic Unleashed. they're pretty good. In fact, I think it's great. There's been many Sonic games that offer a second, more gimmicky gameplay style or have the whole game be that gimmick. Classic Sonic, the Avatar, Caliburn, and of course the Werehog. And in my opinion, it's the most fleshed out a Sonic gimmick's ever been. Instead of high-speed reaction time platforming of the day stages, we have bigger, slower, and more precise platform-heavy levels. And of course, with a really huge focus on combat. They gave the Werehog stretchy arms for, reasons, but the way it's used here is really nice. You swing across rooftops and poles, and of course have a million different straight and hook attacks for the enemies. And with the right button combo, you can combine your attacks together for some sick combos. Beating the enemies down like you're hitting bongos, cartwheeling your way through hordes of enemies, throwing those annoying ass bees up in the air and then launching them back to the ground. You can just tell the animators had a load of fun working with Sonic's stretchy arms. Once the enemy is at a certain health, you can defeat them with critical QTE attacks. You get extra points if you do them correctly, meaning it's actually pretty easy to get an S rank here. In fact, it's actually easier to get an S rank in the night stages compared to the day ones. I personally don't like this. It discourages people from using actual combos. Maybe if it was more time-based or something, or if it depended on how many combos you get in total. I just wish I had more of a challenge to get the S ranks here. Anyway, there's a lot of different enemies here as well, like the standard Eggman mechs both with and without shields, basic soldiers and bigger, harder variants, wizards that can heal other monsters around, ogres that act like mini-bosses, these dog things, flowers that shoot orbs of energy, and the fuck-ass, stupid-ass, dumbass bees, aka the worst enemy in the fucking game. They just dodge every hit. There's not as much of an enemy variety here as something like Frontiers. That game has loads of new and unique enemies spanning across every island. But in Unleashed, you'll see every variety in less than halfway through the game. But I think it makes up for it with its combat, which is a lot more varied and intuitive than it is in Frontiers. It's flashy, more expressive, and as I stated before, there's lots to do with it. If the next game after Frontiers has a combat system, I really hope they look at Unleashed for the amount of depth and expression you can do when it comes to how many moves Sonic has. I really do love how flashy it is in Frontiers, but the variety that Unleashed brings just makes it way more fun to experiment with. The only issue that I have here that halts the gameplay is the progression system. When you defeat the monsters, you get experience points for both daytime and nighttime Sonic. For day Sonic, it's pretty simple. You can level up your speed and boost gauge. But for the Werehog, it's way more complex. There's 5 categories your XP can go to. Strength, making you obviously stronger. Life increases your health. Unleash lets you keep your Unleash attacks for longer. Shield gives you a better chance to not break your shield throughout the levels. And of course, combat, giving you new skills and combos. The only problem with it is that there's so many combat options locked behind mountains of levels. It makes sense why people complain about the Werehog being too button mashy. You don't really get to see half of these attacks unless you grind your ass off. But the issue with that is when you do get these cool new moves, a lot of the enemies are 1 to 2 hit kills. So that means you don't really have a lot of chances to use these. I think the Wii version handles the progression system a lot better. Instead of choosing what you want, you have a circle that gives you a decent amount of each stat the more you play. Though in all fairness to the Wii version, the Werehog is much worse here. The levels are fine, but the actual combat is a slog to go through, and there's way too many levels here too. In the HD version, you'll have one decently lengthened level and a couple side levels to go along with it, just like Day Sonic. And usually the Werehog levels in those stages last around 10 to 15 minutes. Could be a lot less depending on how skilled you are with the combat and platforming. But in the Wii version, you get like maybe 2 Sonic levels that last like 3 minutes and 10 Werehog levels that are 5 to 7 minutes each. It's cool that they applied the different areas of the continents idea for these stages as well though, like actually platforming rooftops in Rooftop Run, or exploring abandoned temples in Cool Edge. I'd really love to see these levels fully brought to life in the HD version. But it definitely does make that version a lot worse than the HD one. On the topic of the HD version, if you want to get most of your enjoyment out of the Werehog, focus on leveling up your combat. Throughout the hub worlds, you can find a lot of food items in the game that give you skill points. Most notably, the chili dogs and hero sandwiches. You don't need to fully max out the levels, especially when the max numbers they can go up to can be horrible. But putting more of your XP into them than usual can go a long way for your enjoyment. Or just use the infinite ring glitch with Wintos and buy a million hero sandwiches and chili dogs. I did that a few times. If only there was a New Game Plus mode after beating the main game. I think many people would think differently of the Werehog if they were able to fight with high levels from start to finish. Because damn, even with the flaws it still has, it's a blast to play through. Everyone brings up how fun it is to climb the clock tower, but speedrunning Cool Edge Night and skipping some of the beefy areas with some combos in Empire City is a load of fun. And the side missions and DLC stages are just as fun. The extra acts and DLC stages split up the 2 distinct features of the main acts. We have acts that are almost entirely platform based, which shows how diverse and varied the actual platforming is, and stages that are focused entirely on combat, which lets you experiment with just how much you can do with it. If you're going to replay Unleashed or play it for the first time, try these out. I think you'll have different views on the Werehog with just a bit of experimentation. Obviously the day stages are the best part of the game, but that doesn't make the night stages anywhere near bad. But now, it's time to talk about you. Other than the Werehog, the most controversial part of Sonic Unleashed has to be the Sun and Moon medals. The medals are required collectibles you grab throughout the levels and hub worlds. Collectibles obviously aren't anything new for platformers, far from it. Even Sonic's had a few moments of having these. But the problem is how it's handled here. You need 120 of each medal to enter the final level of the game right before the climax, Jungle Joyride. I feel like that's asking a lot of the player, especially when the main objective isn't to get the medals, it's to get from point A to point B. In the nighttime sections, they make sense to find them throughout the stages. The whole point of the Werehog is to fight and explore, so if you explore hard enough, you should be finding most, if not all, the medals easily. But for daytime Sonic, that's a completely different story. A good chunk of the medals have you stop in your tracks in the middle of a stage just to find them. Like for example, the infamous Stair medal. I actually kind of like this one, it's not really that bad. It kind of reminds me of finding item boxes at the top of the towers of Speed Highway, so it's kind of like a nice reward for exploring. But with that being said, it kind of contrasts from what they want you to do in these stages. If you really want to make fun of a medal placement, look no further than Jungle Joyride, because what the fuck is this placement? The Wii version, surprisingly, also handles this a lot better. The higher the rank you get in both night and day stages, the more medals you get. It's a really good incentive to get better at both gameplay styles, so I think if they mixed both ways the medals worked here in the HD version, that would be a lot better. Maybe for Sonic, if you got a certain rank, you get a good amount of medals, but for the Werehog, you still explore the map to find them. That way, you can collect medals via the day sections without stopping at random spots of the map while exploring the vast openness of the Werehog levels. At the very least, you can collect a few medals in the side missions, as well as buying things for the professor in exchange for a few medals. So they aren't like the worst thing ever, but it's still probably the worst part of the game. But now that that's out of the way, it's time to look at the last part of the overall gameplay package. Since the series began, Sonic bosses kinda suck. A lot of them are pretty basic throughout the whole series, but does Unleashed fix that? Yes. And no. Mostly no. Just like the levels, there's two types of bosses in this game, the daytime bosses and the nighttime ones. And I'll just get the day ones out of the way. These kind of suck. They aren't really that bad, but they're just the bare minimum of what you can do for a Sonic boss. Auto runners where you boost into the boss until it's dead. There's three bosses for daytime Sonic, the Egg Beetle, the Egg Devil Ray, and the Egg Lancer. And these are just kind of reskins of one another. It's the Werehog where things get more interesting. There's 4 bosses this time around, but I'm only going to focus on 3 for now. I'll get to the last one later. First off, the Dark Eye of Phoenix. You pretty much just throw water buckets at him, punch him a few times, and then do a couple quick time events. The Dark Moray, which is kind of the same thing, but a little more intuitive as you have to freeze its minions and destroy the barrier, only to then have to freeze the big guy at the right time. And lastly, the Dark Guardian, which is probably the worst boss here because you just move a box and do a couple quick time events. I should probably mention the Tornado bosses as well, and they're just kind of here. They're similar to the Tornado sections of Sonic Adventure, but instead of shooting and dodging robots and lasers, you're pretty much just playing a rhythm game. It's fine, I guess, and there's only 2 of these just like Sonic Adventure, but yeah, fine change of pace, nothing more.
This is boring.
I'll build Robotnik Land, the ultimate city, where I will rule it all!
Ah, he's enjoying this way too much.
Alright, hey guys, I'm gonna take over now. Eggman Land is probably one of my favorite stages in any Sonic game. I mean, I haven't really played a lot of Sonic games, but I've played all the Boost games, so hear me out. I know what I'm talking about, dude. Just shut it. Just shut it. First, we're gonna talk about the hub world. It looks really cool, like the rest of Eggman Land. It has this kind of like red, evil, fucked up looking carnival vibe. And I always found it interesting how in the hub world, if you go forward, you can go into the mouth of this like Eggman mural, which it doesn't really lead anywhere. It's just an invisible wall after a little bit. But on the Wii and PS2 version, the first Eggman Land stage, you pass through a way bigger version of the same Eggman mural. I think it's just cool how they reused assets, and it's a cool entrance. It's cool. Shut the fuck up. I also think it's funny how the hot dog man is still here for whatever reason. And also there's this robot you can talk to, and he literally like asks you for money and then rewrites his entire personality to be your friend. I'm not even like, this isn't a joke. And then another little fun fact, Eggman has been talking about building this place since Sonic Adventure 1. So this bro is like, this is a long time coming. This bro is dedicated. All right, I'm done yapping about the hub world. We gotta talk about the level now. Eggman Land is a level that consists of multiple different paths. There are so many routes to the stage. I can't even tell you how many. Like in the first 9 seconds, you're met with 4 different routes. And this is the reason I like this stage so much. So there's long ways and there's short ways, and then there's like middle of the road, long and short ways. It's good. It's good. There are so many ways to play this level. This level is most infamous for being incredibly fucking hard. It is by far the longest stage in this game, and it puts your skills to the test. You play as both regular Sonic and the Werehog. That is a very unique thing about this stage. No other level does this, where you switch between the gameplay styles. Even the Wii version does it. It splits up the stages between Werehog and Daytime, which was most definitely because of the hardware limitations. Even the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions don't really do well with performance. You have to hit these little hourglass things to switch between Sonic and the Werehog, right? The thing is, if you're playing on anything that isn't a Series X or the recompile, it will take so long to load. Like, I'm sure Brendan's gonna tell you all about how this game's performance affected the 360 and PS3 version, that hindered reviews, all that. This stage is especially affected because of those load times. It's literally like switching gameplay styles mid-stage. But if you're playing on the PC or Series S or X version, it works great. It's actually kind of ridiculous, because if you want a world record speed run, you're gonna have to play on the Series X or PC version. It's that much of a difference. And speaking of speedruns, this stage is incredibly fun to speedrun because of the multiple routes. Like, did you know you don't even have to activate these little cup things to get across to here, or you can basically just skip this entire section because of this ledge jump? Was this intentional? I don't fucking know. There's 3 Sonic sections and 3 Werehog sections, and each of them are hard in their own little individual special ways. The Sonic sections basically just want you to know and predict fucking everything, and also have insane skips that can make the level 10 times shorter. And the Werehog sections want you to be on your platformer A game, and they want you to fight. Kinda. The thing is with the combat in this stage is that, unlike any other Werehog stages, it really doesn't require you to fight the enemies. Only like 3 rooms, I think, require you to actually fight the enemies to get by. And 2 of them are literally the last rooms of the entire stage. And now I'm going to go more in depth in the Wii version. This version is split between 4 Sonic levels and 8 fucking Werehog sections.
There's 12.
So there's 4 Sonic ones and 8 Werehog ones. I think I actually like the Wii version of the stage better appearance-wise, because it has that like carnival vibe, but it's way more industrial. It's way bigger. There's pillars in the back, and there's just this like industrial kind of factory vibe going on. It's like Sonic got 10 times smaller and the stage got 10 times bigger. And I actually like this a lot because it gives you an idea of how the different gameplay styles actually affect how Sonic travels. Like, as the Werehog, you're slower, you're grabbing onto ledges and platforming and doing Werehog stuff, and as Sonic, you're basically flying. You could basically do anything. You grind on rails, you homing attack like anything. You're Superman. The HD version still reflects this, but it's just more visible in the Wii version. Also, this is a little weird detail, since the Wii cutscenes are pre-rendered versions of the HD port. The cutscene after Eggman Land doesn't make sense, right? Okay, hear me out. Because in the HD port, in this cutscene, you're in the final room. In the Wii one, the final room isn't the same. So yeah, this doesn't make sense. In this cutscene, you just teleport. This game sucks. I think that's all I wanted to mention about this stage. It's great. It's a great finale. It's really difficult. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna hand this to Brendan now. I'm tired.
Okay, well, thank you, John. Fucking dick. Once Sonic and Chip make their way to the final Gaia Temple and restore the last Chaos Emerald, the final piece of the planet is restored. And with that, the game finally comes to a close.
Do you feel that?
Even you won't last long against this one!
This sword will be your doom!
I love the Egg Dragoon. It is a top tier Sonic boss fight, and nobody ever talks about it. I mean, gameplay wise, it's the usual Werehog boss fight. You run around on a platform and attack the big boss when its weak spot is present, but it's everything else surrounding this boss that just makes it so good. First of all, look at the thing. This is one of the coolest Eggman mechs of all time. It looks like he just threw everything that he could think of together for one machine. It's said that the Egg Dragoon is capable of fighting against Sonic's years of movement patterns. But with that being said, Sonic's patterns. That's why the Werehog can destroy this thing with such ease. This isn't the same Sonic that the Egg Dragoon was able to catch at the start of the game. This is Sonic the Werehog, a completely different version of Sonic. It's kinda why I hate the Generations version of this boss. The Egg Dragoon was made to match Sonic. That's why why it's so cool seeing the Werehog fight it, but here it kind of just gets rid of that idea. It also kind of uses that boring quick-step style the day bosses had, so yeah, not a fan of this one. Second off, look what's happening in the background. Eggman goes mad during this fight. He won't accept defeat, to the point where he breaks the platform beneath us and not only has Sonic and Chip, but himself fall to the core of the earth. Trust me, there's been many bosses in Sonic that have so much visual flair to it, like the bosses in Shadow Generations, and more notably the Titan fights. But this? Eggman, the guy that turned you into this monster with such smugness at the start of the game, now having to deal with the creature he created as it rips and tears apart his proudest machine to shreds. It is just so goddamn cool. Fuck, I love this game. Even the music is fantastic. As you can see, I'm very normal about this boss. While Eggman fails at finally defeating Sonic, he succeeds in bringing all three of them right to the Earth's core. And of course, the home of Dark Gaia.
Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, me, me. That pesky wind again. Me, 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 me.
Before any real fights can happen though, Dark Gaia drains the energy out of Sonic, reverting him back to his Hedgehog form, but obviously in a weaker state. I think this moment has a lot more importance than people realize. This is the first time Sonic has shown any vulnerability in the entire series. The character that's been seen time and time again facing danger in the eye finally breaks. But even with that, he still has that spark of Sonic energy in him. He tells Chip to run instead of saving himself with him. He's actively caring for those around him more than himself, even at his weakest point. Chip uses his powers as Light Gaia to unite all the previous Gaia temples across the globe to assemble one giant Gaia Colossus. And the boss fight that goes with this? It's okay. At least phase 1. You start as the Gaia Colossus far away from Dark Gaia, and you have to try and get as close as possible while dodging any attack. Once you reach Dark Gaia, you switch over to Sonic for some short and fast-paced reaction time levels. When beating one of those segments, you smack Dark Gaia right in one of his eyes. You repeat that pattern 3 more times until all the eyes are destroyed. The boss is okay. Presentation-wise, it's again one of the best in the series, but gameplay-wise, it's alright. The Colossus sections are a bit of a hassle to go through, especially since you have to do these 3 different times, each getting harder and harder. But the Sonic segments, they make up for it big time. I love how intense it all is. Racing against the clock, Chip telling you to hurry, everything getting thrown at you. It's the most intense final boss a Sonic game has ever had, in my opinion. In the Wii version of the game, it's a little different. Instead of dashing to Dark Gaia as the Colossus, you instead play a game of Punch-Out with him. Once you change the Sonic, you play a couple quick levels in the same vein as the HD version, but instead of swapping through Chip and Sonic, you just play a handful of Sonic levels. I kinda like the pacing of this one more. The majority of the boss is just Sonic, meaning you're actually using the skills you learned throughout the game. But the HD version has much better atmosphere and more intense level design. However, this is only the first part, because right after thinking you defeated Dark Gaia, this happens.
Dark Gaia has regained its true power. The beast is complete. It's just as the Gaia manuscripts foretold, and the world shall be plunged into the dark of night, the dark of destruction. Oh, that it should come to this. We're doomed. The planet is lost.
That won't happen! There's no way Sonic will let it end like this!
Servers are the 7 chaos. Chaos is power. Power is enriched by the heart. The controller is the one that unifies the chaos. Only you can do this.
Time for the big finale!
The world is plunged into darkness as the final chunk of the Earth rises back up. And that means using the power of the 7 Chaos Emeralds all brought back to life, it's up to Super Sonic to finish the job. Gameplay-wise, it's again a little basic. You fly around Dark-Gaya's shield, destroying these snake guard things as Chip distracts him. The more rings that you grabbed on your way to the shield, the more health you have. Your time limit is Chip's health bar. If Dark-Gaia gets too many hits on Chip, it's game over. The way you actually hit the snakes is to just bump into them a couple times while boosting. You can even do a paraloop just like in Knights. Again, it's really simple, but compared to all the Sonic final bosses that come out before this is 100% my favorite. The atmosphere, flying around the core of the earth, and the intensity of trying to break the shield as fast as you can to save Chip. The Wii version, while not nearly as good, it offers a pretty fun alternative. You're in a 2.5D-ish area as you dodge attacks from Dark-Gaia. When you get the chance, you boost right into one of his eyes, and instead of a health bar, the rings are a timer the same way they are in the older titles. It's a cool fight for sure, but it's nowhere near as intense as the HD version. Even the music that plays here is spectacular. Everyone loves stuff like Live and Learn or the remix of I'm Here from Frontiers, but the song that plays here, the epic orchestral version of the game's main theme, it feels like a reward for going through such an incredible adventure. With the fight being over, Sonic collapses from exhaustion on the Colossus. The battle's over, the world is saved, but with that, Chip can't stay. He's the day to Dark-Gaia's night. He's essential to the planet. With a brief goodbye, Chip throws Sonic out of the core while the last chunk of the Earth reconnects with the planet.
Ah, the light reigns over darkness, and the world is returned to peace. It's simply a miracle. We've been saved by a miracle.
I told you, didn't I? There was no way Sonic would let something like that happen.
Still, we cannot live without the night. We all must sleep. We all must rest. Darkness is a part of our world, just the same as light. It may be that the darkness has not been destroyed, but merely laid to rest. It grows strong over the eons, rises up, then is put to slumber by the light.
Ow! Huh?
I'll never forget you. I'll be here by you, always. A part of the earth you tread.
Perhaps that is the true balance of dark and light Gaia. That balance may be the very will of the planet itself.
Save the speech for later. We've got to get things ready for Sonic's coming home party!
I'll give you $10.
Sonic Unleashed is such a special game to me. With each playthrough, there's just so many more aspects I love about this game. It's got amazing visuals, unforgettable moments, and a story that's got the most care and consistency in the whole franchise. There's so many little details here as well, like for example, did you know that the cutscene where Sonic saves Amy is almost a one-to-one homage to the final cutscene of Sonic CD? There's even a dude in the shower whistling the main theme of the game. But most of all, Sonic Unleashed is fun, it's full of life, and the amount of polish and design is something I think the series lacks nowadays. Don't get me wrong, I love newer Sonic stuff. The movies are an incredible watch, especially the third one, and Shadow Generations was a remarkable game. Frontiers, while I do have many issues with it, I still love it for the breath of fresh air it brought to the series. I'll even say Sonic Origins was a fun product, even if it has weird issues. And Superstars, I'm good. But I don't know, there's only a few games that I've ever played that I've genuinely gotten so much joy and whimsy out of. Games that feel like it's the first playthrough all over again. And Sonic Unleashed is my #1 example of that. Even the Wii version, while not being nearly as good as the HD version, still has so many aspects of Sonic that I'd kill to see again. It feels more like a genuine full-time Sonic Wii game than Colors ever did, at least. There's even a mobile port of the game. Granted, it's not very great, it's only a half an hour long, runs on Java phones, and the final boss takes place in Missouri. They didn't skimp on the music, though. Why did they have to go that hard? I was planning to talk a bit more about this version, but there's not really much to say. It's kind of like a lost Sonic Rush game. It'd be pretty cool to see this as an actual, like, DS title or something. It's not a perfect game by any means, far from it. There's many issues here that I didn't really touch upon for the video's pacing. I barely talked about the performance quality of the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions, for example. These games just don't run well on their original consoles. It's one of the worst optimizations in any game. Thankfully, I was able to record the HD version with the new fan-made Sonic Unleashed recompiled. It's a full version of the game you can run on PCs and Mac. So thankfully I didn't really have to deal with those issues, but just because this fan-made version exists doesn't mean the issues didn't exist. Not to mention the small but apparent pacing issues, having to collect a bunch of medals and leveling up the Werehog with mountains of XP, and also the annoying Werehog battle music that just never fucking changes. But I don't think those issues can affect the love I have for Sonic Unleashed. I mean, goddamn, I have a whole shelf dedicated to this game and worked on an almost hour-long video glazing it, for God's sake. So I will rightfully take my crown as the only guy that likes Sonic Unleashed. I mean, who else knew that the classic Sonic Unleashed tie-in mini-movie has a 3D ride in Canada? Or that mini-movie has a sequel that came out in 2023 with ghost babies? Sonic, you sly dog. Literally. Or, did you know that the opening cutscene is actually the longest cutscene of any Wii game? Why yes, I'm trying to get this video to an hour long, how could you tell? Funny enough, while making this video, there's been a very sudden spotlight on the lore of this game, thanks to the new Japanese timeline and the recent Tales Tube episode, as well as Unleashed locations returning in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Never in my life did I think to see Apotos returning, but hey, here we are and it's automatically better than Mario Kart World because of it. And I honestly don't think it's a coincidence either. In fact, I'm damn well sure we'll see Unleashed coming back in some special way real soon. Maybe a Sonic X Shadow type thing, like a remaster of the original game with an all-new expansion pack? Pickle Unleashed? I don't know, just don't change the writing, please. Or the voice cast, because Unleashed isn't Unleashed without the 4Kids cast, which is actually something I glossed over throughout the video. Like, I literally can't hear a better Sonic than Jason Griffin. I love Roger and Ryan, but Jason's Sonic is just perfection, especially in Unleashed. Everyone else did a pretty good job as well, but there's just something about Sonic here. It's more impactful than any Sonic game. Who knows, maybe with the spotlight on this game's lore, the next Sonic game will expand upon the vast lore that the game brought. Maybe we can see more about the Gaians. Just don't replace Professor Pickle with this Maria ripoff, alright? We need him back. Overall, Sonic Unleashed is without a doubt one of my favorite video games of all time, and every time I play it, I remember why I fell in love with Sonic in the first place. The thrilling gameplay, the daring decisions, the characters, the themes, the lessons it brings, and the story it delivers. Everything I love about Sonic shines here, whether it's during the dazzling day or the glistening night. If you ever thought to play this game for the first time or replay the game now that we have incredible ways to do so, do yourself a favor and take it all in, because I promise you, this is a world adventure you'll never forget.
Video's over now. Why am I still a furry?